back to Big Fish Side Dish, the companion piece to Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. That's the name of my show. I should know this. I've been doing this show a year and a half, actually over a year and a half. And, you know, it's a good thing no one's here to witness my embarrassment. Oh, wait. There are people right in front of me. Hi, guys.
Hey.
I'm here with... introduce yourselves, actually. Let's just do that.
I'm Mike Shaw.
And I'm Chrislyn Choo.
And who are we?
We are Migration Media.
Wow, I didn't join in for the chorus there. I should have done that. So this
You're out.
Oh, shoot. Oh, I screwed up, guys. My last official posting as part of the Migration Media Network. You're hearing it here, Collector's Edition. So we're here because this is a kind of exciting little moment in our journey together. The really short version of things, and if you heard the show, you've heard me say this in some detail, so I won't belabor it, and if you haven't, then you should go back and start listening, please. But basically the idea is that Mike Shaw was a man with a dream. He had an idea for what has now become Migration Media. We met, and I helped develop it, and along the way, we met Chrislyn, and she's great, and so we're sort of the surviving core of this operation. And first, let's just kind of tell everybody what Migration Media is, then I'll say why we're here actually talking about it today.
Migration Media is a platform where we will tell and focus on the stories of the international migrant community.
And we are here because technically, officially, Monday, November 5th marks a bit of a milestone for the company and also for related to something I'm doing. And would one of you like to do the honors, maybe Chrislyn?
Suppose we are officially launching our brand with our website in the addition of a wonderful fourth new show. Brendan, take it away.
Hey, so it's on air now. You can check it out now. But How China Works is up, and that's my new show with Ying Li.
How does China work?
Well, we don't pretend to have all the answers, Mike, but we do know the questions to ask. And that's the idea. That is the premise. And so the pitch on How China Works, if you're listening to this, you're probably familiar with this already, but basically Ying is a Gen Y millennial Chinese female from central China who lives and has worked and traveled all over the world. And of course, I'm a middle-aged American who now lives and works mostly in China. So we have a cross-generational, cross-cultural, cross-gender way to look at all these issues. And so the idea with How China Works is we're going to cover all the basic pieces of what it is to deal with China, as well as what Chinese need to understand if they're trying to go global. And so we take these ideas apart and we bat them around together. And so that's the new show. The intro episode is out right now as we record this. The daily series for the first 8 weeks, it's daily. That launches on Monday. And along with that, we decided, you know what, let's have at least a what I could do in Squarespace, basically what we could do between us with our efforts, version of the website together. And so we have, a functional, respectful, Squarespace version of a website until we get all of our money and we hire somebody to.
It exists.
It exists. It's there.
Migrationmedia.net.
That's very nice. But so this is not about me talking so much as about finding out what else everybody's been up to. So in case you're kind of new to this, and I have some new people discovering me as I noticed from, watching the tracking, probably picking up from new people that they've met along the way recently. Someone or a friend of yours or someone who brought you into discovering Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. And now this is maybe the second or third or fifth episode you've heard. So you may not know about Mike's show. You may not know about Chrislyn's show. So let's start. Let's go ladies first this time because I'm a Southern gentleman. Chrislyn, my friend, you've been on the show now before, and this is your side dish debut.
Yes.
With you in person. So what is it that you do and what is your project that you're doing?
Well, so the show that I have with Migration Media is called The Chrysalis Chronicles, and it pretty much documents the journey that brought me over here in the first place, to explore my roots as a Malaysian Chinese American and just try to figure out what does it mean to actually have and embrace and live fully out of your multicultural heritage, without shame and just love, so much love to give, And so I guess this whole journey started when I first got here, right? And then also met you. And for the longest time, I've always been behind the camera telling other people's stories. But this season has been one which, I'm kind of turning the lens onto my own story. And so my first I guess, interview on Big Fish was that first chance, to actually put myself out there and start processing these things. So it's been pretty surreal to see, I guess we're 8-9 months down the line, and now we are all working together to tell our migration stories and to create space for other people too as well. And right now, my day job is one that I sometimes can't believe is a real job.
Yeah, you kind of found the perfect thing for you. This is so omniscient that you almost couldn't write this if you just made it up.
Like people talk about, work-life balance or separation or something. Everything is totally integrated.
I don't know what that is.
Now. Yeah.
I've heard of this concept as well. Maybe you can explain it to me afterwards.
But everything is just super aligned right now. I recently became the multimedia content officer for a company in Beijing called My China Roots. And it's basically the world's leading genealogy and ancestry service. They help overseas Chinese people like myself to trace our roots. And it's everything from, trying to just interpret your documents and your letters, and you can't read Chinese. And what does it mean, to actually trying to plan your own trip back to the mainland, back to the motherland, to visit your ancestral village, reconnect with relatives, possibly. And so I'm working with them now to plan my own trip back to my grandfather's village, which I know of now, and went for the first time about 12 years ago. And I've learned that I have a 62-year-old cousin and a niece who has a child. So that will stay tuned for how that goes.
And what format? Tell everybody, because you don't do a podcast. With Migration Media, it's podcasts, blogs, vlogs. There will be, actual, other things as we go, but that's kind of the gist. That's our platter for now. So what form your project is taking really kind of two complementary forms here.
Yes. My Chrysalis Chronicles has two prongs to it. One is the personal vlogs, where I literally just process, what am I learning about language learning as in ABC? What am I learning about, generational communication? What is it like to visit my ancestral village? It's all Chrislyn's perspective. That's on YouTube. And then the other prong is interviews and conversations in a series of photos and articles where I literally just sit down with people I'm meeting along the way and asking them, where are you in your journey? How do you make sense of all these parts of yourself? And I just learn from them and share what I learn. And that is what I call the Chrysalis combos.
Yes. And I'm going to link this too. And actually, you were on Big Fish Side Dish last week by way of 2 weeks ago, by way of me reusing your interview. I remastered your interview and recontextualized it because of some other things going on. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. And also I'm going to link, we'll come back to you in a minute. The thing to put a pin in to think about is, I'm not trying to be so formal. This is supposed to be more off the cuff. I guess I could say man or curse or something, make it more casual.
Damn it.
But damn it. There we go. Thanks, Mike. I don't think I'm going to go explicit for a damn it. Sorry, iTunes. But we'll come back to that. And the thing maybe to think about is how Migration Media serves that purpose and is like the perfect home, basically what this means to you. But I want to mention, of course, without Mike Shaw, there's no Migration Media. So speaking of serendipity, Small World, we met right at a year ago at the launch for Movember, the big charity event.
That is right.
That's the China version of Movember, where it used to be Guys Grow a Mustache, and it raises money for men's prostate charities and men's health issues, and it's become another thing. And the Movember, it's not political. It's the smallest unit of money. It's like basically the Chinese penny is the Mao. So it's not meaning the former chairman. But nonetheless, a Movember thing here. I met Mike, launch party, just instantly kind of started jamming, kicking ideas, had some coffees, and he's like, I got this idea. I'm like, wow. And we got into it. What's your recollection of how it got started? And then, where did this twinkle in your eye come from? What do you remember about us getting started, and then what are you doing with it for your show?
This has been a bug in my brain for a while, but I am incredibly lazy. So, just for reference, I've mentioned this on my own show. I made the decision to move. Well, I heard the voice in my head that said I should move to China, and then I spent almost 2.5 years working up to it. So I moved slow.
It's a big move, though.
I figure it out. I plot it down to the minute detail, and then I execute. So migration media, I didn't have a name for it, but the idea migration media had been in my head for, I would say, almost 2 years before I met you. But it didn't kind of have the flavor and the essence of what it is now. It was just kind of like, we need something. What's going on out here in the world of expats and migrants, and how do we, I don't know, bring our stories together? How do we? I was not having conversations that I wanted to have with people.
Right.
You don't sit down at the bar with your friends in Beijing or any other expat city and say, "Hey, man, what do you feel about your nationality?"
Well, yeah. It's like some stunt guys would say about an impossible. Could you do this? I could do it once.
Yeah, it's like,
you have an identity crisis.
yeah.
Too?
What's your identity crisis about? Let me tell you about mine.
Check, please.
You feel at home anywhere and nowhere.
Exactly.
Wow.
This is not something you do. So how do we? We're all thinking it.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about
Yeah.
it. So what do we do about that? And that bug has been in my brain for a while. And then I saw what you were doing, and everyone thinks I could do a podcast, right?
Sure,
but,
sure.
But then you see that you're doing it, and I got to sit down and do an interview with you, which was fantastic.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah,
that was fun, and I got just to see what you were doing.
Oh yeah, we ended up. You expressed your curiosity, and I'm like, well, I'll walk you through it. He's like, okay. And like half the time was like we did the thing, but it was also here's what I do, and here's how I edit, and here's what Libsyn is, and so you were like, we got into it. Yeah,
that's not too bad. I could handle that.
That's a fun hobby.
And so I, kind of played around with the idea in my head. Spent the bread and got the good microphone, and taught myself how to use the editing software. And 6 months later, I had a podcast.
Yeah, and I remember along the way between the meeting and having you on my show, and then kind of hanging out a bit at various coffee shops around Beijing and kicking around that first real meeting, out after the initial meet was when you said, I had this idea for this thing, and you might have, I don't know where you were internally, of course, about your process of committing to that as a name, but Migration Media was a name that came out of your mouth at that meeting, upstairs of that one Starbucks. They need the plug, right? The one by the hotel that has the art gallery in the lobby. Okay,
yeah.
Well, that's one of 20. Okay, but I digress because it's Big Fish side dish. So, but when you said Migration Media, you were still clearly it seemed like you were committing to it as you said it to me. Well, I mean, the concept you had, but like the name and I remember there were a few ideas, and I'm like, that's got a ring to it.
Well, I have to confess something.
Were you just acting the shit out of that, basically? Hey, there's an explicit rating! Yay! All right, sorry.
I have to confess something.
Keep it gangsta.
I was completely using you.
I totally couldn't tell.
Well, what I mean is that it's like the same thing that happened when I had the brain malfunction that said move to China. The first thing I did was I told my best friend, right? Because if you say it out loud, then it's a real thing.
Oh, I got to do it now.
So if I'm sitting down with you and talking about this idea, and then I say it out loud.
I do a podcast. I'm like, I want to do a podcast to build a podcast network.
Public accountability.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Then all of a sudden, I'm somebody who's going to hold you to it.
Exactly.
Or at least I'm going to know you were talking
exactly.
shit.
I did that on your podcast the other week. I was like, why did I just commit to reaching out to my relatives?
Of course. Well, I, to be fair, I also drew that out of you.
Yes,
you said something, and I said, season 2!
And I drew, Mike's on the roll, but yeah, I drew something out of you in that first thing about looping you into something, but I didn't know what it was.
So you drew it out of me to commit to do it because you were doing it, and I saw this, great...
If this loser can make it happen, if this loser can be like Beijing semi-famous, anybody can do it.
No way, man. It's like, hey, I've heard some really bad podcasts trolling around the internet. You do just fine.
Thank you, yeah. I'm okay.
But you kind of pulled it out of me because you really like the concept, and you kind of drew it out of me. And then, you've got the experience and the background and the know-how to at least lay down give me the confidence that we can lay down the foundation because there's enough expertise behind it. Because I don't know how to build a production company.
Yeah,
I don't know what mastering audio means. I plug the microphone in and I talk, and if it sounds okay, I put it on the internet.
There you go.
But you understand there are other things you got to consider, and I didn't know that. And that's what separates people, shouting into the ether,
right,
which is fine. That separates people shouting into the ether from a level of professionalism that will allow us to support and, foster this community that's out there that doesn't know it exists.
Exactly. And that's what it appealed to me in so many ways because, I love doing Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. I plan to do it. Who knows? I plan to do it even if I'm not living here, although at some point maybe I would pass the torch or something. But the fact is, it's a very niche show. Now, it tracks all over the world because there are also people who are interested in, either from here, have a connection, or they're just interested for a reason in China. But I wanted to be part of something that could be bigger. And that's actually, so the platform, helping with the platform was the idea. So your show, give the plug for your show. You kind of already explained what it is without saying, I don't even think you said the name yet, actually. Mike Shaw is the creator and host of
Migratory Patterns.
Nice. And what do you do on Migratory Patterns?
We talk about the two big questions that face the international migrant community. Where is home and what is home? Mm-hmm. And I just sit down. I ask the person, the first question every podcast is, where is home? And I get a different answer every time. Not just geographically. I'll get a different qualification.
Okay.
Someone will say it means something different. Someone will say it's complicated. Chrislyn, I think you said that is a really difficult question to answer.
It is. I heard your interview.
Everyone either has a different answer or has a different way they qualify their answer, which is the essence of what's going on with us.
Right.
And that in the first 30 seconds of every podcast captures the conundrum. And then I spend the next 30, 40, 50 minutes just going through that. And I'll usually trace where the person came from, their origin story. And then we transition into, well, what does living overseas mean to you? Like, how does it affected what you think? And I'm learning something every time I interview someone. And I got to tell you, no skin off your backs, man. But if this thing crashes and burns, I'm still going to do this.
You're still doing it.
I am loving talking to people, and it's blowing me away. And I'm realizing more and more how much we need to have these conversations because people sit down and they're really nervous.
Yeah.
And people get nervous in a microphone, but they're nervous about the content. They've kind of internalized this struggle and they've never been able to kind of talk about it in a way that is validating and in a context that is part of a whole, which is what we're trying to create here. You're not out there alone. We're all going through this. We're all going through the same thing. We are a community.
Yeah.
We just don't know it yet.
Exactly. And so I'm going to bring this back to Chrislyn because the migratory patterns in terms of we have different structures and shows. It's a different show, and you're not specifically limited to China. Mike has people that track in all different places, although for now, there's a big China element, but it's not a China specific show. But it's similar in that it's an in-depth conversation with one person about their journey, basically. And it's similar in that sense. And for me, with how China works, which I'll wrap up talking about, because I want to talk about eating a little bit. But for me, that was my way to do a broader, more focused show and have somebody as a counterpart who's the same person where we can build a rapport and to be able to, we research that show. We go really in depth. It's actually improvised off of really tightly, outlined scripts and things like that so that we can really stay on track, unlike this thing right here, right now. But we're trying to put, as much info as possible into as little time as possible and to be able to hit a broader audience. And so it's very structured. So Chrislyn is doing something that I think is perhaps a little bit of a hybrid in that it's both personal story, but then you're using real journalism skills in terms of your articles on people, your interviews and articles. You're structuring a story in a really classic sense. So what appeals to you about the formats that you're working in? Because the two different things, you got the vlogs and you've got that. So yeah, what appeals to you? Is this two parts of your brain or?
Well, first of all, it's all very incredibly meta, I think. What you said, Mike, about it being like a community. The beauty of that is what I'm experiencing right now. Like, I don't think about Chrysalis Chronicles as a show. Like, I think about it as, this is feeding my soul.
Right.
This is like my public therapy in a way, and I'm just inviting you all to jump into the mess with me, you know. And
I say show as a shorthand, but it's a little more personal for you.
And actually, like, I mean, the episode that I just put out this week, it has to do with my experience learning language here, and the classic, you know, oh, I have a Chinese face, but I haven't been able to speak Chinese well for most of my life. That's always been the bitter root of, oh, am I Chinese enough? Can I really, you know, am I really welcome in this community, etc. And so this week I was like in the format of the video, I felt like it was almost like, this sounds very clinical, but I almost felt like I was like a surgeon being able to pull out, you know, all of these memories, all of these moments from the past and just lay it out on the operating table, right? And then kind of stitch it all back together in a way that makes sense and feels true to both my struggle, but also my successes and my healing that I've been experiencing here. And actually the Chrysalis convo that I reference in that video, it's with these two siblings who are biracial and have gone on their own similar journeys to do what they call cultural rehabilitation. And they have this incredible metaphor of like, oh, being born with, you know, two cultural legs, and in one environment they're able to really exercise one leg, but the other one atrophies, and then vice versa.
Wow.
And so like,
It's got to be a helpful balancing act,
right? Exactly, literally, and similar to therapy, like or physical therapy, especially, you have to overcome a lot of mental blocks in addition to the physical blocks, and, you know, you have to set your goals. Like, do you want to have an Olympic athlete leg, or do you just want to, you know, be able to run and jog and actually be like, you know, what is enough, right? And what are the standards that we're always trying to aspire to be this culturally fluid or culturally fit being. So just having that conversation with them and reviewing it and editing it, you know, as I'm also trying to edit my own, how do I tell the story of my cultural rehabilitation here? How has it been helping me? Like, it's just met on so many levels that I'm just like, wow, you know, these conversations, they are helping me make sense of my life. And I just put it out there in the hopes that it relates to someone else. You know, they will have a perspective that will keep building on, you know, this healing like years down the line, because I mean, every story that we put out there, we are a different person when we come back to it, you know? So I know that, like, if for no one else, I'm definitely making this like for myself. And the way that I think about this series, it's honestly like, I'm trying to be the person that my younger self needed, or I'm trying to speak the things that my younger self needed to hear that I'm only now, you know, starting to articulate and realize. So, yeah.
Mike and I are both intently looking at Chrislyn and soaking that in, and I'm totally feeling that. And
you're a couple videos in, and I'm really enjoying them. I'm really hooked. I really love the language episode that came out last week. That whole sequence where you were having the whole conversation with everyone who asked you questions in your sleep.
Yeah,
that was really great.
That's really funny. That's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, for people who haven't seen it, basically I open the video like, here's every single question that people will ask you when they realize that you cannot speak Chinese. And I am so used to explaining my story, explaining who I am, that I could literally do it in my
Again,
sleep.
to be fair, I mean, you speak enough to be functional at this point,
right.
But you're not, they can tell once you open your mouth that you're not fluent,
Right.
you're not native,
Right.
you're not
that's
local.
That's the whole journey you're on.
And that's
too,
confusing because
you're figuring yourself out, but you're not Chinese, but you are, but you're not. And that's the whole thing.
Chinese
Right.
asterisk, many asterisks.
Well, and because we have sort of a hard out in terms of time for everybody to do their thing they've got to do. I guess what I want to say is, if we have like another 5 or 7 minutes or so here, is that good for you guys both? Okay. In terms of what, you know, Chrislyn, what you were just saying about basically you said your version of what Mike said. It's like, basically, I do this without anybody. I'll do this for me, you know, and that's what's interesting is I was doing Big Fish. I'm glad people are listening. I mean, it's, of course, please tell a friend, share, subscribe, rate, and all the places, do all the things. That means a lot to us. It really does. There's no money. I mean, this just frankly costs us, you know, time and money in a sense. But I mean, I would not do this, you know, for the world. So, with Big Fish, absolutely something. Everything that Mike that you said. I mean, I had my version of that too, and we talked about this offline a lot. You know, because it lets me have those conversations with people that are a little more thoughtful and in-depth than you're going to have like over a casual bar conversation, or that would be weird if it's like somebody you don't know very well. But in an interview context, it gives people the permission to open up.
Can I just say, you're making me think about the conversations. I did this amazing interview with this woman, Joanna, and her grandmother had died just before she was supposed to interview with me. And she, of course, had to rush home. And then she just put off the interview. I mean, I'm not pushing her. And
Sure.
Whenever she's ready.
It's a good time.
But she sat down with me, and it was the first time she talked about,
she processed that.
She processed that, but not. It wasn't the death. I mean, someone dies in your family. There's this whole grieving process that goes on, but I learned that the grieving was different, and I don't think she had anyone to talk to about that. In the context of living overseas. What does it mean to have someone in your family pass when you live overseas? The grieving process is totally different because when you go home...
You can't go right there.
Or even if you can go home, when you get there, there's always this sense of removal that is never gone, even when you're there. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, you weren't here for this.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it doesn't have to be spoken, but that's just one example.
Sure.
And what you just said about being able to sit down and talk with people about things that you wouldn't talk about in a bar.
Yeah.
Something about having the interview and just having the microphone in front of people, as nervous as they are, something about it lets them open up.
You kind of end up forgetting about it a bit. Yeah. That's why it's actually important you forget about it so much that it's important to remember I'm listening. It's important not to get so casual. It's like the room is quiet. You need to make sure you're listening.
It's tough.
It's tough. It is because you get it's easy, but that's the good part. That's the best interview is where they kind of forget about it. So as we're sort of moving toward the home stretch time wise, I'll say one more thing, and then I want to get some closing thoughts from you two. But again, we picked this as a milestone, November 5th. That'll be the launch of the full series of How China Works.
Guy Fawkes Day.
That's right. Yes, that's fun. I have a pair of shorts that have the anonymous logo on them, which are kind of funny and silly.
Total coincidence.
Total funny and silly thing. Go. Maybe that should have been my Halloween costume. So I didn't dress up and go anywhere. I was sitting here working on How China Works. But that'll be the launch of the full series. And too bad Ingen can't join us because she's gone to know. Yeah. I said we say nice things in her absence. Not that we have to think hard to do that, but she's really been an amazing addition to my life, personally, professionally, just to get to know her and the energy she brings as this, I won't give you her resume, all that's on the website, but she's a very accomplished cross-cultural communicator who deals with high-end, high-touch, sort of demanding folks who expect something, for their time and their money that they give to put into somebody for having them speak or being a consultant or hiring them to do a job. And so she has all this wealth of knowledge, and she lives her life asking similar questions to some of the things we've touched on, and then she has her way she approaches getting the answers. And so it's been really awesome. I'm really sorry she couldn't join us in terms of scheduling tonight, but we're rolling Migration Media out. We have some other things we can't talk about yet because, we need some things like locked in on paper.
But people to take on the responsibility and things that happen.
But in general, just moving forward, we're going to continue to build this slowly. We're really curating this. We will ultimately be, expanding in different ways and bringing in other people with similar shows that have a passion where they would do it even if nobody's paying, which is the case, right? But something where people should be listening, right? So we will be expanding internationally more and more. We'll be creating more and more things. We have several things in the works. We'll pop up and talk about this in public and private, lots of different ways. In terms of getting this out there, do you have an ask for everybody here? I want to say I'm going to put links, to both of your shows and my interviews with you in here. Do you have any ask for people, in general?
Yeah. If you are listening and you either are doing this or someone who's doing this, you're following or you're inspired by someone who's doing this, I would love to connect with people who are trying to document the experience of a diaspora, people trying to ask questions between generations, to draw out stories from older generations and pass them on to younger generations. Ever since I I launched my project about 2-3 weeks ago. I've been able to get in touch already with some awesome series that are literally like everything from documenting family members, like bringing out their photo albums and just talking about it, to trying to grapple with like what does it mean to be an ABC and flipping that to mean Asians between cultures. You should check them out at the ABC issue.
Okay. Oh, that's the one you're.
Yes.
I haven't chased that link yet.
But it just opens this whole new stage where if I do create some kind of season 2 or focus series for my Chrysalis Convos, I would just love to interview the community builders, like people, like other people like us that are just trying to create this international migrant community. So yeah, reach out.
Awesome. Yeah, because your series, you're taking a seasonal approach to your video series. So once you finish Chrislyn Comes to China,
yes,
then there's going to be season 2 is going to be a different thing.
Yes. And
that's to be determined, but it'll be worth watching. And I'll be linking this. Contacting is easy via the website.
Yeah, just go to migrationmedia.net, click on contact, and you can submit ideas. You can get in touch with us. You can let us know about cool people who you know out there in the world who are creating content, who are trying to have this conversation, who are currently voices shouting into the ether. We don't want them to be shouting in the ether anymore.
They need a team. They need a posse. They need a platform.
Squad.
Yeah.
They need a squad. Squad goals.
Yes.
I am...
Hashtag squad goals.
Yeah. I'm also trying to up my game. I mean, I kind of had to downshift a little bit with my episodes. I switched from weekly to every other week in September. And I'm about to ramp back up again in to kind of be with you guys fully into this thing. So I'm starting on Monday. My episodes are going to come out on Monday, and I've got every week for the rest of the year lined up. I've got interviews either in the can or coming up very soon. I've got some amazing interviews. Chrislyn's going to help me on one of them, which we're really excited about. I'm pretty sure we're interviewing the oldest expat in China.
99 years old, people.
99.
Can't wait for that one.
You gotta tune into Migratory Patterns. She's amazing.
And you're going to have a video component with this?
Yeah, we'll do a little video capture.
Chrislyn's, video filmmaker, writer,
collaborating.
director.
I'm expanding the reach outside of China finally, which is great. And that's another thing. If you want to talk about your expat story, your migration story, drop us a line. Again, go to migrationmedia.net, click on contact. We'd love to hear from you. I've got episodes coming out for the rest of the year, and then I'm gonna close off season 1 right around Christmas or New Year, and then I'll be back at it after Chinese New Year. So.
Sounds great, and I can officially just mention the details aren't important for now, but I will be going back. I'll keep putting up a Big Fish once a week. I'll do a Big Fish side dish pretty much every week. How China Works. 8 straight weeks of daily Monday through Friday shows. Then it shifts into a twice a week format.
How do you do this?
Well, that's why I'm working 18, 20-hour days at this moment. Fortunately, this is my job. But I am going back to Los Angeles. I will be in Los Angeles for a week for some film business stuff, which would be great. But I'll keep putting out the shows, published. They're recorded mostly. I just have to, upload them and publish them. But I'm very excited for this, and we have big plans in store for Migration Media. Not going to jinx ourselves, but, we'd love this to be our full-time job. So hopefully we'll get there.
That's the goal.
Hopefully
Let's make it so not only do we foster community, but it supports the community.
Pays for that roof right there. All right.
Where's home?
Right.
Wherever under it.
Wherever I'm sitting. All right. So thanks again, everybody. Don't forget to check out the links in the show notes. If you haven't heard Migratory Patterns, if you haven't heard Migratory Patterns, I don't know why I'm doing this twice. I'm not going to edit. If you haven't heard Migratory Patterns with Mike Shaw, or you haven't seen Chrysalis in all its permutations with Chrislyn Choo, you should get on that. Migrationmedia.net is live. Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. Seacrest out. Thanks.